Hello everyone, I am Neetika Shridhar, Assistant Vice President at ICRA Limited, and through this podcast I will be sharing our views on key policy issues that are likely to impact the finances of state governments in FY23. We have started the FY23 budgets of 13 states, namely Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Haryana, Karnataka, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Punjab, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. Based on the trends in the budgets and our own assessment of various indicators, we project the combined revenue deficit of the 13 states at Rs 2.1 trillion. This is higher than the budgeted Rs 1.8 trillion as well as the amount indicated in the provisional actuals for FY22. We do expect the tax devolution and the GST compensation grants to the states to exceed the amount budgeted for FY23. However, the upside from these two will not be adequate to fully offset the shortfall that we estimate in other revenue streams of the states as well as the higher than budgeted revenue expenditure in FY23. As far as capital expenditure is concerned, we estimate that 13 states will have a combined fiscal space of a massive Rs 7.4 trillion for FY23. This is 81% higher than their combined capex of Rs 4.1 trillion in FY22 provisional actuals and also higher than the FY23 budgeted capex of Rs 5.8 trillion. This assessment of the resources is based on the funds that are likely to be available to the states from three sources. First is the unconditional market borrowing of 3.5% of gross state domestic product. Secondly, the interest-free capex loan to be provided by the Government of India to the state governments. And thirdly, the additional power sector reform related borrowing of 0.5% of GSDP. From these three sources, we have excluded the revenue deficit that we have estimated and the likely adjustment of off-budget borrowing of FY22. We have categorized Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal as subset A, as these states will have adequate resources to fully fund or exceed their budgeted capex for FY23. Here we want to point out that several of these states have budgeted for a very high YOY capex growth for FY23. However, if we look at the trends during the first 4 to 5 months of FY23, the capital spending has been quite modest. Based on these factors, that is the high YOY growth and the actual spending trends, we remain cautious about whether their capital spending can exceed the budgeted level. Therefore, we have assumed their capital spending to remain in line with the budget estimates for FY23, except in case of Karnataka, where we have assumed a 10% YOY growth. The fiscal space for Haryana, Rajasthan, Kerala, Punjab and Telangana would be inadequate for funding the capital expenditure budgeted for FY23 by a varying extent. The fiscal space for Kerala and Telangana in FY23 is curtailed on account of the adjustment of the incremental off-budget debt of FY22. So for these four states, we have assumed that their capex will be limited to the available fiscal space, which is lower than their FY23 budget estimate. These states will need to undertake additional revenue mobilization and or expenditure efficiency measures for boosting their capital expenditure. Our overall sense is that there will be considerable funds available to the states for capital expenditure in FY23, but whether the actual outcome in the current year turns out to be appreciably higher than the budgeted level will largely be determined by the ability of the states to ramp up execution relative to the 4.1 trillion capital expenditure that these states spent in FY22 provisional actuals. Overall, we project the combined FY23 capital expenditure of the 13 states at Rs 5.4 trillion. While this will be lower than the available fiscal space and the budgeted amount, it will still be a considerable step up from Rs 4.1 trillion in the previous fiscal. So based on this, we expect the combined fiscal deficit of the 13 states at Rs 7.5 trillion, which will be higher than the budgeted Rs 7.3 trillion and also higher than the 5.9 trillion in FY22 provisional actuals. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for our upcoming podcasts.